I'm Niresh Eliyatambi. Sri Lanka has been going through tough times for several years now, and the people have repeatedly asked for a system change. And
people shouldn't be afraid of their government. Instead, governments should be afraid of their people.
NPP has is by design, and it's not only in Sri Lanka, even across out of Sri Lanka as well.
I had to go to my cabinet minister secretary to even to get a small thing passed.
That's a different question. The authorities are there. Why aren't you going in?
The integrity was compromised by the bribery commission.
The chairman of the party does not attend when you all sign a MOU with GLPs and Nalagodeva, which is quite important.
Who was trying to safeguard the robbers of central bank.
We know
while
in Sri Lanka there are issues.
Inquiry was going on.
People wanted Gotabe, right? People elected him.
But what we can see is that it has certainly stalled. There is no public record of what these cases were.
In particular, the things are very severe when President is also the Minister of Finance.
I will give you a post how it came about. It was not argued in the parliament. It was not even put on the cabinet. It was forced down the throat of the people of this country without an election.
Newsfirst, face to face with Wijebandara.
Hello and a very good evening. Welcome to a brand new episode of Newsfirst's Face to Face, coming to you direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. For the Newsfirst team, I am Wijebandara, and today's topic of discussion is national unity. To talk about national unity and much more, we have invited to our studios this evening Attorney at Law J.M. Wijebandara, representing the National People's Power, and also Lieutenant Colonel Channa Karunaratne, representing the United Republic Front. A very good evening to both of you gentlemen. Thank you for coming on the show.
good evening. Thank you very much.
To start tonight's proceedings, gentlemen, I wish to, as I mentioned in the start, to talk about national unity, particularly when it comes to election season. This topic emerges and political parties use it to sway the popular vote, but as we have seen historically, it dies down once more when a certain election is concluded. So, to pick your brains on, firstly, what national unity means to Sri Lanka and to your respective parties, I want to ask Attorney at Law J.M. Wijebandara what the NPP's idea or opinion of national unity is and how the NPP plans to work towards achieving national unity in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, now this topic is on the card for a very long time, and we still talk about national unity. Other side of the coin says that we have so far failed to achieve national unity. There were 13th Amendment and various statutory attempts, and now Provincial Council is not there. And then actually various religion and ethnic groups are living in Sri Lanka in harmony. Most of the people culturally, I respect Sri Lankan citizenry. They respect each other.
Mutual respect.
Mutual respect was there and it is still there. But what happened is that we have politically, by way of political propaganda or just in order to survive in power, we have disintegrated the society as against the integration.
Right.
Disintegrated. So why this happened? Now you will see our constitution. If you ask what is the meaning for NPP, the national unity, we got the supreme law of the country. It says all citizens are equal before the law.
Yes.
No person can be discriminated based on their religious ethnicity, gender, etc. So that is the basic motto that this country has to be go forward. And always the constitution says sovereignty rests with the people, that peoples are sovereign. Their powers are divided into 5 categories under the supreme law of the country. One is their legislative power, Second is their executive power. Third is their judicial power. They're exercising it through courts and tribunal established by law. Established by law is the parliament again. And then they have two powers that has not been given beyond persons. That is their franchise, right to vote, and their fundamental rights. Those are two rights that has not been vested with any government organ. It is exclusively with the people. And then we have set up three separate organs of government, that is executive, legislature and judiciary, to ensure that representative democracy is working, and with the anticipation of their rights to legislate will be implemented by parliament incompatible with the wishes of the people. Their rights of implementing law would be exercised by executive, the president and ministers of cabinet, incompatible with the wishes of the people.
Yes.
And then they will enact laws to avoid law delays and a clear mechanism of dispute resolution by way of legislation, and establish proper forums, courts and tribunals, etc., to ensure that fast and speedy dispute resolution mechanism. That is what is expected. During this setup, you cannot talk discrimination based on gender, discrimination based on
race and
religion, etc. But in practically, I am not too theoretical, in practically this happened.
Do those prejudices exist?
Exactly. There are laws delays, there are various problems we face with. Then whose responsibility and accountability to set up, avoid these misdeeds and set up a system of good governance? That is a major problem that we are faced with. Unfortunately, if we talk about a decentralization of powers, the people cried and they say that this is the solution. Some may argue 13th Amendment is not the solution. Subject to those arguments, once you set up particular mechanism with some expectation and you enact a law to that effect, can you disregard laws? In a system of good governance and exemplary governance, you have to obey by the law. Nobody is placed above the law. That is the motto. That is what we are teaching in every legal institutions and good governance institution. But what we face right now today is vice versa, other side. Now elections are not held on time as provided by law. Institutions are in fact kind of put the situation to halt, like provincial council is not,
they are in limbo.
Yeah, not in function. Local government institution where the decentralization of powers and you send the power to the roots of the society.
Yes.
That system is not,
it's crippled.
Right then, so the existing mechanism is not working. Now, foremost condition right now as we face today, to ensure national integrity, unity, you must have a government recognized by the people, mandated by the people, and you need a government that obey the law, that is being controlled by the law, not
above
to place any organs of government or individual to do things above the law. We have heard that hardcore criminals had been pardoned without any condition whatsoever. That means people, even executive presidents have acted above the law, and due elections have not been held. So maybe various argument, but it is the fundamental duty of those who in governance to ensure that laws are obeyed and laws are implemented. Now in that sense they have failed. They have failed. Therefore, at this juncture, to wind up my first session, if we talk about national unity, without fulfilling the foremost condition of setting up an exemplary government mandated by the people, that people can trust, is no point of talking national unity, because you cannot implement. There should be and must be a implementation mechanism, which is we are lacking at the moment.
Quite an elaborate explanation, but something that the viewers can ponder on nonetheless. I want to move on to Lieutenant Colonel Channa Karunaratne of the United Republic Front on what him and his party's representation is of national unity. What do you think, Mr. Karunaratne? Do you agree with what Mr. Wijebandara just mentioned, or do you have anything to add?
I don't have any disagreement with him. In fact, it's a very sad status of affairs that we experience after 76 years of gaining independence. Yes. Still we have happened to discuss about the national unity. That caused a prolonged war, existed over 30 years or something, causing many lives, and a lot of funds could have been utilized for the development of the country. We believe we have the main cause of the issue is we have failed to establish the national state, we should say, Jatika Rajya.
Okay.
We have failed to establish, we have, when there are multi-ethnic groups in a society, in a country, a state, that country should first be able to absorb all the ethnic groups into the national state.
Right.
So we have failed in that during the period of last 76 years after the colonial
era ended.
Yes. So it is paramount important at this very crucial juncture, in my opinion. The present bankruptcy the country experience is the national disunity has immensely contributed into the economic bankruptcy also.
So you mentioned that we have failed to create a national state, but what sort of features does a national state encompass, and where did Sri Lanka go wrong in either its path or its journey towards creating a national state? Did we go wrong when it came to legislation? Did we go wrong based on people's attitudes? Where did Sri Lanka get it wrong and eventually not create the national state that you envisage?
I would say by the time we gained independence, the colonial divide and rule policy had caused disunity among the various ethnic groups in the country.
Right.
And since independence, the Sri Lankan state, as a state, we have not been able to integrate them into the mainstream of governing, decision making, and what should I say, the opportunity to contribute in all the sectors, right?
Yes.
We have failed
to do so.
You failed to do so.
So, Mr. Wijebandara, coming back to the point of you mentioning the centralization of power and the importance of empowering smaller governmental bodies or the local governmental bodies, is that you indirectly agreeing that the 13th Amendment to the Constitution must be enacted and provincial councils must or will be empowered to a greater extent under a government led by the NPP?
It is not as a topic of we are talking during election,
right?
But even recently our Commodore Lanka said that grassroots level must be enhanced with legislative involvement, executive involvement, and also justice should go close to their footsteps.
But that very statement seems to have been misinterpreted by many in society, where they say that the people will be given the power of the judge, the jury and executioner, where the people will be empowered to make their own judgments, and that hasn't gone down well with many in our society. So do you wish to clarify what actually he was trying to mean?
Exactly, that is the unfortunate fate that we are faced with, even with that problem, as well as during last 76 years with regard to national integrity, national unity. When you talk in a political platform, we stimulate people to think. You are not enacting law in a public rally, but you have to take it as it is. If it is going to be a law, that has to be gone through legal enactment process. Then it is up to the respective intellectuals to deliberate it and convert it to a piece of legislation. Now, unfortunately, you see the policy that Mr. Lalkantha advocate is that we are faced with a lot of problems. Now, for example, legal delays is a serious matter. Entire legal community is aware of this. But we alone, being the legal community, cannot resolve this problem. This is also part of national unity issue also. Even for a fundamental right application, if it is filed, sometimes it takes years and years to dispose. That is your basic right. So then what Mr. Lalkantha explained, that we will set up a decentralization policy so that people can achieve. In fact, that is the policy of every government. Though they have failed, even you take current Minister of Justice, I have respect my voice intellectual, but in Parliament, he, as you said, that he tried to criticize this statement by Mr. Lalkantha.
Dr. Wijebandara.
And but his policy, what is his policy now in Colombo society? Alternative dispute resolution mechanism are set up. Entire business paternity, they don't want to go to traditional system of dispute resolution. That's why arbitration centers are set up. Separate commercial high court is set up. And also recently civil procedure code was amended to curtail unnecessary dispute or unnecessary trials. And at the threshold of a particular dispute trial, we have introduced pre-trial. Having introduced those laws, jolly well knowing that this is the problem that country face, when NPP representative advocate such and say that we will work for it, the minister think otherwise. That is very sad fate of life. This is what has happened. We sometimes disintegrate people on the basis of ethnicity. Sometimes even by schools also. If you just observe vehicles, they have put up their separate
school badges or logos,
and logos and all that. And that also, I don't think it is poor integration, but even indirectly that would contribute for disintegration. But we as a nation,
but don't you believe that is a bit too extreme? Because I mean, I myself also celebrate the fact that I am of a certain school, but we cannot point out and see that that is a prominent feature of disintegration, can you?
No, it is not prominent feature at all. And also I respect, let me clarify it further, I respect any individual has a right to enjoy their personal life. They are thinking about their school, thinking about their religious, so whatever it is, they have a self-prestige. So let it be alone. So I mean, I'm just take an example, but we have to work for disintegration, avoid disintegration and integrate. Even the mixed school concept also is there. I mean, that also kind of respect to the gender discrimination. So in future, for the purpose of achieving the objective of integration, we need to certain laws to be implemented in a future government. So what is foremost important thing is, at the moment for last 2-3 years, entire legislature has become a joke. And the affairs that we observe happening inside Parliament is a mockery. And also the democratic system, that is the means through which we can achieve social unity. The democratic representative must respect the basic fundamentals of democracy. If you contest from one party and then you are democratically elected by the people and then you are being trusted for certain period, for 5 years, whatever it is, that you will stick to that policy. Whatever you express people at the election campaign or manifesto, you stick to that. And also under the social contract theory, the people between two elections has a voice. to condemn or defend the government that they elected. That is people's right. So we have experienced after Aragalya or with the Aragalya, people came forward and rejected a government that they elected. So that is democratic. Maybe there are pros and cons, some violence activities and who is responsible, that we can debate big way. But fact remain, it is the people who gather in millions to Goalpace and throughout the country. So they rejected democratically elected government democratically. That was a major juncture where we should have initiate integration program immediately after the Aragalya. Then even this program, I have been telling the cardinal Mahanayakas, civil society say that have a interim government for 6 months. Sand politics. It was advocated, you remember. And then have a go for election. National government, go for election, then implement, because now we learn a lesson after Aragalya, even 69 blacks people votes, right? But then still that government was rejected by the people. Respect the democratic rights of the people, and now you learn a lesson and agree, all political parties were invited. Unfortunately, very, very unfortunately, who is culpable for sabotaging that? That is my question. Now, with the resignation or ousting of the Gotabaya Rajapaksa, his prime minister was ousted. Ministers of cabinet were ousted. People voiced that particular family member should not be appointed. And what does it mean? That means entire parliament majority also rejected. Because parliament majority cannot survive alone. When your president is rejected, when your prime minister is rejected, when your ministers of cabinet that was appointed are utilizing the mandate you got at the parliament election, parliament also rejected. But what will happen? Rejected parliament elected the president. That president, there is an argument say that now we are stable in compared to Aragalya era. Of course, we sense something, yes, but that is not the solution. We are not rushed to come to conclude that everything is done perfectly. But what is noticeable, since we are talking about national unity and all that, what is noticeable is with that election by the parliament of a president, entire parliament system and government system collapse. Now you see ex-minister elected from one party and then he was appointed by a minister, I don't know name persons, by one party, and he is a president of another political party. People know this. So I mean, if this political culture will put people into a very uncertain situation. They are not certain what their future. Therefore, at this juncture, people are crying that allow them to appoint a government with their consent. For that, have the election. Without setting up the clear governance system, of course, it is pointless to talk about separate topics such as unity or, rule of law. That will not work.
Unfortunately, although that would be the ideal scenario, we are in a position where we must talk about these topics even though the future is uncertain. You're watching Face to Face. We'll be right back after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Newsfirst, Face to Face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
We live in a world of progress, but what if progress isn't reaching everyone? Millions of Sri Lankans struggle without access to clean water, safe roads and bridges to a better life. But you have reached out. You have touched their lives. Thank you, Sri Lanka, for making Wijebandara the most impactful rural development movement in our nation. Wijebandara, for the people, by the people.
සිම්පත හරියට ලියාපදිංචි කරගෙන තියෙන්න ඕන. සමහරව එහෙම දන්නෙත් නැහනේ.
මේ සිම්පත කොයිතරම් වැදගත්ද කියලා මේ දුරකථන පාවිච්චි කරන හැම දෙනාම දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා තමයි මම කියන්නේ.
මැයි වලින් පස්සේ ලොකු ගම් වතුර තත්ත්වයක් එන්න නියමිතයි කියලා කාලගුණ විද්‍යාඥයින් අනතුරු අංගවන පසුබිමක ඔබ කොයි විදිහටද මේ අපේ තෙත්බිම් සම්බන්ධයෙන් දකින්නේ?
කොළඹ නගරයේ තියෙන නාගරික තෙත්බිම් වලින් 21%ක් තියෙන නාගරික තෙත්බිම් වලින් වැසි ජලයෙන් 39%ක් රඳවා ගන්න බව.
දැන් විලද නගරයේ කටයුතු කරන කට්ටිය දැන් එනවා පරිපාලන නගරයට. කොහොමද මේ දන්නව හැටි අපි ගත්තොත් අරවතු කොට එහෙම නැත්නම් කිඹුලවල ප්‍රදේශයේ අපිට තියෙනවා රැයට කෑම කඩ. ඉස්සර එක තිබ්බේ කොහෙද? කොළඹ. දැන් ගොඩ දෙනෙක් මේ පැත්තට එන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ට අර පොළ පාට ගතිය මේ තියෙන බ්‍රීස් එක කියන්නේ ඇඟට දැනෙන වෙනස අනිවාර්යෙන් දැනෙනවා.
ජාතික මෙහෙවර සතියේ දිනවල උදෑසන 11ට. නීල පබලු අද රාත්‍රී 9ට සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්.
ඔබම තමයි පෙරදාම වෙත ආවේ. ඔබම තමයි ආදරේ ගැන මට කීවේ. ඔබම තමයි ජීවිතේ ලිය කලේ. ඔබම තමයි අද මගේ එළුව අඳුරු කලේ. ඔබ කැමති නම් මට කියන්න මගේ දුක ටිකක් හරි නිවෙන්න.
Newsfirst, face to face with Jamal Ratnayaka.
Welcome back to Face. My guests this evening are Attorney at Law J. Wijebandara, representing the National People's Power, and Lieutenant Colonel Channa Karunaratne of the United Republic Front. Mr. Karunaratne, before heading into the break, Mr. Wijebandara was mentioning how the formation of a national government should have been done once the Aragalaya concluded. But if we take the scenarios that unfolded thereafter, once Ranil Wickremesinghe ascended to presidency, at least through the votes of the parliament, during successive speeches made in parliament, he called for all parties to support the reform process and the economic development program that he has put in place, although there have been varying degrees of support or dissent towards the president's call. What is the United Republic Front's opinion of this? Have you reached out to the president in support, or at least to support in terms of providing expert knowledge in terms of taking Sri Lanka out of the rut it is in? Have you taken up the president's invitation to go and speak to the president? We know that the leader of your party went and met with the president and handed over the proposal that was compiled by the URF. So what sort of a stance is the URF in? I will come to Mr. Wijebandara, but I must ask you this question as well.
Actually, as long as there is a national interest regarding any issue, our party supports the national interest, I should say.
Okay.
We have only one MP in the parliament. So he has contributed immensely in many of the working committees in the parliament.
So even when he wasn't in government?
Yes. No, yes. The present context I am talking about. And he has forwarded many proposals, many reports, and because after all, the politics should ultimately contribute and focus on the national interest, not the petty Sillera politics, right? So the stance of the United Republic Front is when ever there is a national issue and whenever there is a contribution that can be made as a political party, the United Republican Front is willing to give its fullest support to fulfill the best interest of the nation. It's not political, but it's a national interest, I should say.
Right. So serving the best interest of the nation can be further enhanced if a certain political party is in government or is in power, and the most opportune moment for that will hopefully be the presidential election that will be held, and that is mandated by the constitution to be held. What is the URF's plan for the presidential election? Will you support a different party's candidate, or will you field a candidate from the URF to hopefully secure the majority vote and also thereafter serve the national interest and the interests of the people?
To my knowledge, the final decision has not been reached yet. When the eventualities develop and when the point comes to a decisive moment that you have to make a decision, then the party will announce its stance.
So the URF
so far, no final decision.
No final decision.
Yes.
So, Mr. Wijebandara, I want to ask the same question that I posed to Mr. Karunaratne as well. Despite the president calling for assistance from political parties to band together in his journey towards taking Sri Lanka out of this economic crisis, why hasn't the NPP at least sought to consult the president and see what he has to offer before criticizing or expressing dissent?
We are in a democratic country, and we always for democracy, and also as an opposition member we also have contributed immensely to ensure good governance in this country and integrity, and also avoid corruption. Now our MP Sunil Handunati was the chairman of COPE sometime. He has very actively participated it. So that means we also, being whether we have 5 members or 3 members, we have been contributing within our parameters, and we have in fact introduced to society. These are the things that has to be done to ensure people-friendly government and make a country more beautiful than what we are facing right now. But you know, by way of a coalition or otherwise, during past 76 years, for the sake of gaining power, people established various coalitions. And then thereafter it is one family or one party dominate. Then if those who come and rally around with it a major party, they have the option either to sail with them, keeping silent with the real issues, or to go away. Now, NPP history or JVP members history is that they once entered into coalition and they had their sufficient number of members, and then that is the instant where they, together with GLPs and then government, introduced 17th Amendment for the very first time. From 1978 to 2002 or 3, for 25 years, the appointment of apex court judges and all that were at the whim and fancy of the executive president. That is the only time where 17th Amendment was introduced. That is, to that extent, we have attempted to work for the betterment of the country, even with the existing system. And also about this economic collapse, if you take example, if you take Reed Hansard and all that, what NPP members or JVP members of parliament has predicted. And they have very carried. Sometimes you say various insulting words are using, but if you just go through intellectually, and they have predicted and they have shown that this is wrong, but we didn't have power, so we could not achieve that. And also we are scared of any coalition. That is very, we know what happened during past. So we are very much ready to face the forthcoming election, whether it's parliament election or presidential election. We have a network throughout the country. We have a web that goes to the grassroots level. And all are set in motion. So we are ready to face for election, and also we have clearly found now no point of entering into coalitions. We need power to implement our policies. Our policy is that one country, one nation, and to make the country beautiful country. For that, even while you watching news daily, I mean, sometimes you are taken by surprise. The way things happen. Sometimes public officers are not obeying establishment code, and members of parliament are doing things that we every single
calling for duty-free concessions for vehicles to be imported. And also even the school child will know, this is what I have learned from social study book, that this is the law. Elections are there for a time, that also not obeyed. I mean, people are in total disarray. They cannot understand what this is. I mean, first we have to delete that fear psychosis, uncertain psychosis from the mind of the franchise people. So the first thing that we are going to do is to set up good governance and eradicate or minimize corruption. Prior to that, we will have to set up a government that people can believe. That is what we are aiming for in any forthcoming elections. Right. So, Mr. Karunaratne, since you are a former military personnel and someone who has knowledge of the inner workings of the security apparatus, I'm sure you will agree that national unity and national security go hand in hand, because there might be forces that will try to cause chaos and also to create disunity, disharmony among the people of Sri Lanka. And we saw how that happened, especially during the war and also more recently during the Easter Sunday attacks, where the security apparatus was dismantled completely. How much of importance should any party in power, specifically the URF or the JVP or the NPP, the SLPP, place on national security and having a robust national security plan to ensure that such cruel and wild, heinous crimes do not occur in Sri Lanka, and parties that work against Sri Lanka are kept away through security?
Actually, national security are of many folds. as regard to national unity, our main threat is due to caused due to national disunity.
Right.
The prolonged 30-year war was again due to national disunity. So when we talk about national unity, the most important thing is if we can, as I mentioned in my first entering the dialogue, if we can build a national state, if we can integrate all the ethnic groups to support the Republic of Sri Lanka, then I should say our main threat to national security could be eliminated to a great extent, because we are nearby very giant nations like India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So far there have not been any threat from the other than the geopolitical tensions we have with our neighboring countries. We didn't have direct threat from them to our national security or our territorial integrity or in that respect. It is therefore as I told you, our main threat to national security caused mainly due to the national disunity we had. So in order to minimize or eliminate our main threat, we have to establish the national state as soon as possible and integrate all the different ethnic groups into the national state and letting them live in peace and harmony.
Right. So, Mr. Wijebandara, I want to pose this same question but in a different light. If we take the people's security, public security, and we see recent statements that are being made by the Minister of Public Security, where he has essentially handed the all-powerful, how can I put it? If
all
he has
powers
been
to handle the situation.
To handle the situation, very well put, to officials of the police themselves to be the judge, the jury and executioner, saying during a passing out ceremony that do not fear to use the weapon in your hand, essentially empowering them to use the weapon in their hand without following a proper judicial process if there are miscreants that are apprehended. And we have the IGP of Sri Lanka who has been convicted in court as well. Even in the interim, until a new government is established and the presidential election is held, how can the people feel secure when such figures and individuals are at the helm? And the people's security, essentially those who are supposed to safeguard the people's security, are being putting the people's security at risk.
Yeah, actually, extrajudicial killing in whatever form has to be condemned unconditionally. Now, police and the Ministry of Public Security are set up to ensure and maintain good order of a country. That doesn't mean that they are sanctioned or licensed to violate the law. And also, if you take they are dealing with criminals. So criminals mean even an accused is a wealth of source of evidence. Even an accused, if you say drug eradication, if an accused is caught and bring it to the custody of the police, that is a source of knowledge or evidence. So you have to secure evidence if you are there to, and genuinely if you want to ensure that law is applied and matter is resolved legitimately.
Yes.
But nowadays, if that, as you said, that if you use and you are sanctioned and you are encouraged by the minister himself, we have seen instances where innocent lorry driver was fired.
Yes.
And then that story for 2 weeks people talk, now it has gone and buried.
Yes, because the primary aim of police officers or anyone in the police should be to diffuse a certain situation, and the use of lethal force should be the last resort. But when your minister himself is encouraging the use of force, what sort of a feeling does an ordinary citizen get about his or her security?
That also part and parcel of this collapse system, collapse government. You know why? Now to become a head of political department, including police, you don't have to campaign. That is legitimacy come through that is what we expected.
Yes.
But here in this instance, the head of the department of police had to campaign. Do a huge campaign, even through banners and everything. Have you seen that? Is it according to establishment code or anything? No, this is head of a department, public servant. So he had a massive campaign. Still he is running that campaign to justify, because as you rightly said, he had been convicted, he has been held liable, accountable by Supreme Court for fundamental right violation. And also, therefore, this campaign, even if he does it genuinely, his legitimation to do it is also questionable. And also, drug eradication or whatever it is, they don't have to give publicity. If they say, take the, I think you agree, if police raiding, they don't have address a rally and say that tomorrow we are raiding. I mean, that is not what is happening.
It's counterintuitive.
Exactly. This is like the Olweng Hitaganno type thing.
Yes.
So they gather people and police, so what do you call community police or something, both minister and IGP goes and address. We do this, that thing, and we are doing this thing. I mean, that is not the way that law expect and the society expect police to function. Of course, we always encourage them and appreciate them. If they work, if they do proper spying, proper tracking of the criminals, and proper producing before the court, trying, we always appreciate. But the way police conduct is also like kind of publicity. I mean, where we are heading for? This is one of the major institutions in the country, and ministers say, okay, you are sanctioned. And also he says, I will disclose the names of lawyers who appear. I mean, if lawyer appears for a case, even a hardcore criminal case cannot be disposed without lawyers appearing. Even when one of the High Court justices was killed by a drug person, when lawyers refused to appear, then case could not be disposed without appearance is ensured. So then appearance is there. Then Minister of Public Administration say, I disclose the name, public security, I disclose the names, and it's like kind of animosity with a particular sect of the people. But ministers are there, head of departments are there, not to expand or spread animosity, but to ensure their fundamental task that has been entrusted on them in terms of law, in terms of police ordinance and the constitution. So there is a question.
Right. So Ms. Karunaratne, very quickly, I think you have something to add regarding this as well.
Actually, some years ago, there was an incident at Kotadeniyawa, Seya
Sademini.
Yes. And the first, what the police did was, first they captured arrest someone, saying that he is the culprit.
One day or somebody.
Yes, yes. And finally, after the protest or something from the locals, after a very prolonged investigation, they found that he was not the person.
He was not guilty.
Yes. So similar kind of drug elimination project. The project was conducted in Philippines some years ago under the President Rodrigo Duterte. Right? There were a lot of, what should I say, human right violations and, extra judicial killing took place in that country. We all agree that we all are being harassed and our lives are disturbed by the drug addiction and the drug trafficking, the drug
and
business
crime in
as a
general.
whole. We all want to
put an end to it.
Put an end to it. But
it should be done within a specified legal framework.
And one thing, if a person who is in custody, a custodial death occurs, that shows not the competency but the incompetency of the
policing authority.
I mean, they are not held accountable for anything that is being done, though it is common occurrence.
Right. So we had a very engrossing conversation regarding national unity, national security, elections and so on. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for Face to Face this evening. My guests this evening were Attorney at Law J.M. Wijebandara, representing the National People's Power, and Lieutenant Colonel Channa Karunaratne of the United Republic Front. Thank you very much to both you gentlemen for joining me this evening for a very interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the way it was on Face to Face this evening. Do take care and have yourselves a great night.